at the feet of giants. I like interviewing different people who have done a lot of the things that we aspire to do. And I am so grateful and thankful today to be able to sit with this giant. His name is Derek Berman. Let me tell you, I've been talking to him over the last couple of weeks, and I've been enamored with the things that I've learned from him. I think I probably bug him a little bit because of how much I want to pick his brain and just ask him questions. And I'm so glad that he's going to allow me to ask him some of the very questions here on this interview today. So Derek, welcome, and thank you so much for doing this with me.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So Derek, I want to talk a little bit about you, and then maybe you can fill in some of the blanks. What I know is, you were very, very successful in the music industry. Working with various artists. You had the Beatles that actually opened for you. Mm-hmm. So many different things. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, when I was young, I was very, very poor. And I lived in projects, and I had a very high IQ at that time. Probably lost it by now. But I had a very high IQ, and I was in England, as you can tell by my accent. And I went and did an exam, which in England is called the 11 plus exam, and it's an IQ test. And instead of asking you questions, you just fill in the squiggles, So I did that, and I had 160, which is the highest you can get. And so me and one other person from North London, which is where I live, they asked, what do you want to do? Because I haven't got a school here that can teach you anything, so, which is silly, really. The whole thing in England is crazy. Anyway, they asked my dad what he wanted me to do, and he said, I wanted to be an engineer. So he was a presser in a garment factory. He didn't know too much, and he said, I want. So at 12 years of age, I went to university, and the youngest person in my class was 16. So when I put up my hand first to answer a question, I got beaten up. And that's,
oh my.
And so I kept my hand down. I never asked any questions. I got through it, and I became an engineer, which I hated. It just wasn't me. And so I didn't know what to do to get out of this, because I knew I had to do something for my living. And so I started playing guitar underneath my bedclothes, not an acoustic guitar, electric guitar that no one could hear. I used to stay up all night trying to learn to play the guitar underneath the bedclothes. If my dad would have known I was doing that, he'd killed me. So I played and played and played, and I did a few auditions, and I got into a band, and that band became very, very big. It was called The Echoes, and we had a show on television called Tuesday Rendezvous. It wasn't our show, but we were the band, so like a children's television show. And from then on, we started backing people from the States, like Frankie Valli, Conway Twitty, Jerry Lee Lewis, Olivia Newton-John, people like that. And as they were, no, Olivia wasn't from, she was from Australia. But anyway, other people that came across from the States, because there was nothing really in England as far as rock and roll was concerned until the Beatles, which came after us, but who, as what you said, is like we were the big band and they were our opening band. so
how many people can say that, right? How many people can say the Beatles opened for me? That's pretty funny.
Well, before that, Ringo was our drummer for a little while, and when by the time we played in the Cavern just before the release of I Want to Hold Your Hand, and so by that time Ringo was playing with the Beatles, so obviously we knew them.
Wow.
And then they went to on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that's what made them big. We didn't go on the Ed Sullivan Show because our manager wouldn't let us leave Europe.
Got it.
So that was it. So we got really big in Europe, and the Beatles got really big in the States. After that, I did so many different things. I had a theatrical agency. Me and Robert Tarantino from A&M Records really were instrumental in starting rap in Chicago. We called it house music.
House music, yes, yeah. Yes.
And you know, we had Fast Eddie and Frankie Hollywood Rodriguez, people like that we were managing. They're enormous now. We started all that stuff. Well, it wasn't just us, but we were there. You know, we started all that stuff up. I've done just so many things. I've recorded in Nashville, London, all over the place. I've recorded really, really big names, you know, and I don't know, that's what I've done.
Awesome. So, Derek, I want to break down a lot of what you said for the people that are listening right now, just because you said so much right there that I think was really important, that I want to make sure we kind of go into some of these things a little bit. Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, you can tell the level of success that he's had in the music industry. He helped start rap music here in the U.S. He also, again, the Beatles opened for him. And you've worked, I think, I remember you telling me that you were a promoter. You worked with all different kinds of people like Eartha Kitt, Olivia Newton-John, you know, so that, you know, he's really had success in this industry. But Derek, I want to go back a little bit to when you were a kid, because you just said you had a high IQ. You started college when you were 12.
Stupid.
12 to be an engineer.
Yeah.
And somehow that did not become your path.
Right. I was blessed that the stuff that I've got in this book, I haven't known like this for when I was young, but I knew some things. I knew that I didn't want to. My dad was a garment presser in a sweatshop. He wanted me to do whatever he wanted me to do, work hard, be an engineer, and so on. And I looked at him. He was not happy. He was, when he was 53, 54, because he was picking up this really heavy iron to press clothes, he got a slip disc. Why would I do that? Why would I follow in his footsteps? I thought there has to be something else, something that I can do that I'd be happy with. Why does anyone work at something that they hate? I know a lot of people do, and they make excuses, but
But I mean, there's two things, Derek, that are wrapped into this. Number one, you decided at some point that you needed to choose what makes you happy instead of what your father wanted you to do. I mean, think about it. When we think about all of the people that could be listening right now to this interview, how many people actually chose themselves versus choosing what their parents wanted them to do? So that's a big deal. And I mean, so that's the first thing. The second thing is, you said you taught yourself under the bed to play
under the bedclothes. Yeah, it gave me a big advantage because I could then play the guitar without looking at it. I could play the guitar down here, up there. It didn't make any difference because I never looked at it under the bedclothes. It was dark. And so that was a good advantage, which I didn't know at the time.
Right. But it is a good advantage not to have to look at it in order to do it.
Yeah.
So Derek, talk a little bit about the transition. So now you've stopped working as an engineer. Mm-hmm. You've taught yourself to play the guitar. So how did you transfer, or tell us a little bit about the evolution from there to all of the things that you've done?
You want to know how I joined the group? That sounds good. Look, I was working as an engineer. I realized that I couldn't work as an engineer and and do auditions because bands play in the weekend and they rehearse in the week. So I was working in the week and had the weekend off, so that wasn't any good. So I got myself a job developing photographs in a photography place that was open 12 hours a day. So I worked 4 days a week, that's 48 hours. I could pick what days I wanted, and I worked the weekends, and I had 3 days off in the week. In those 3 days, I could go out and try to get auditions. I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I didn't know anything about the music business. I knew nothing. Anyway, I did a few auditions from bands, and I didn't get any work. Then I did an audition with this other band, the Echoes, and they wanted me to play. The reason is because they were a band that their guitarist got onto a television show. His name was Joe Brown, and these were the brothers, his brothers. They wasn't really the brothers, but that's what they called themselves. And so they needed a guitarist because they wasn't on the show. So they said, oh, good, we've got a guitarist, and I started playing with them. I played with them for 3 months. I didn't earn any money. I was starving. And then one day I said to them, when's our first gig? They said, oh, we don't play anywhere, we just rehearse. Oh, no. So I went out and I knocked at every door that I could. This was in London. And I got some audition. And they didn't want to do the audition. They just wanted to rehearse. Anyway, I got this audition, and this was for playing for, I think it was Gene Vincent. I don't remember. But anyway, we got the job, and that was the beginning of the Echoes.
Wow.
But they didn't. I mean, no, they had money. Well, they didn't have money. Their parents had money. It was two brothers. The place, the house that we were rehearsing in, and the mother was a pianist, and it was fine. It's all arty, you know. I don't even care about working, you know, and I'm starving.
So, you know, so for the audience, first and foremost, you can read about this story and in Derek's book called The Book of Life. And, you know, I want to get a little bit more into the book, but there's so many fabulous lessons that Derek teaches in the book. Now, Derek, one of the things I remember you talking about when you were younger, you were in a convalescent home.
Yeah. When I was 5 years old, I think, I can't remember too much of when I was young. Don't forget, I was born in the war, the Second World War. The bombs were dropping, and my mother was evacuated to about 40 miles from London. But when I was born, she had to come back into London. So I don't remember anything about bombs, but obviously it affected me. And so I chose, not because I was clever, I was stupid, to forget all about that when I got older. And it happened that when I was 5 years old, my appendix burst. And I was very ill. Obviously, you can die from that, but I don't remember that. Anyway, because I was in that state, I got the mumps, the measles, the whooping cough, whatever, all the childhood diseases, and I was very ill. So they sent me away to Convalescent Home, which was about, 40 or 50 miles from London, in Broadstairs. Terrible name, isn't it? Broadstairs. But anyway, I was there, and I don't know if it was England or if it was my family or whatever, but little boys should be seen but not heard. That's all I knew. And if I was heard, I'd get a bash. So my parents never came to visit me. I didn't know why. The reason was probably because they didn't have any money.
Got it.
But all the rest of the kids who were there on every Saturday, and all the parents would come in this big hall, and they'd all go out and take them around, and I'd be stuck there on my own. Where's my parents? This happened every month. I was there for about 6 months. So then I'd leave and say, oh, well, I've got no parents. And when this was finished, my parents came about 6 months later, and took me back to London. Mm-hmm. But it was a different house. It was a different area. Everything was different. But I didn't ask. I didn't say, where are we going? Because I got, and so I was in this different place, and I forgot all about, was that your dog? I forgot all about my old life. And so that took a lot out of me, because what happened is my personality, let's say, split in two. There was my young self and my old self, and this is how life works. People don't realize this, but you create life. Mm-hmm. You create life whether you know it or you don't know it, and every part of you creates life. So I had this little boy of 5 years old that I forgot about. And nothing happened for 60 years. And then I got this terrible congestion in my chest. I didn't know why. I never thought about that, whatever. And I had that congestion for 12 years until I got cancer.
Oh, wow.
I got cancer. I didn't know why. People get cancer. So I went to the oncologist. He said, how long have you had that chest congestion? And I said, I don't know, about 12 years. I didn't even think about it. He said, that's probably why you got cancer. You didn't have enough antibodies to fight cancer. All you've been doing is fighting that congestion. So when I found that out, I said, why have I got this congestion? Obviously, I got better from cancer. I lost my hair, and I started thinking. This is stuff like this is in the book. What's going on? And there's exercises in the book to find these kind of things out. I found out that I'd forgotten about this little boy, and this boy, which is me, obviously, was trying to tell me something. How was it going to do it? It did something to my body. As soon as I found that out, my congestion in the chest was gone, and I've never had it back. These are the things that I know work. And things that I've written in this book, there's exercises like this, many exercises that will work for you. And when they do, it will change your life. You only have to do one of the exercises to change your life. And then you say, oh, this book works. Mm-hmm. And read it properly. I mean, when people read books, they just read it. They don't think about this is a self-help book, and it will help you. There are many, many, many self-help books around. They only concentrate on one thing, usually money. Money is not the most important thing in life. Yes, you can make money, but are you happy? Are you happy no matter what?
So hold on, Derek. Hold on. Let's stop there. Right? let's not talk about money and amounts and all of that kind of stuff. But let's talk about that, because most of the time when people hear from people who've made it, when they go, okay, well, it's easy for you to say that because you've made it. But one of the things I remember you telling me is that you had this belief that you would always have enough.
Yeah.
Or more than enough.
No, just enough.
Or just enough. So talk about that a little bit. Because
I don't know where I got that belief from, but I always thought, well, I was so poor. I mean, I was really, really poor. Let's face it, I had no food. This is the end of the war. Food was rationed. Some people had the power because they had a little money to buy food. We had a little ration book. I remember I've got that ration book because, I kept it. We had 2 eggs a month, 2 ounces of meat a month. There was nothing to eat. That was one thing. And we had no money. So I started off with nothing, really nothing. I lived in a project. My wife, Elizabeth, we went to England, and I took her to where I used to live. She was so scared she ran out. I mean, you know, I came from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I could think. That's all I had. And so I changed my life because of that. Now, I'm not saying that you can think. I've written this down in the book. I want to help people. I've spent years and years trying to think. I used to look at people. Why are they like that? Why do they do that? I've done that my whole life. And I started figuring it out through all the people that I know. And I'm talking about stars. People that have killed, well, not let's kill themselves. Michael Jackson died of prescription drugs. Karen Carpenter, anorexia. Elvis Presley, prescription drugs. These people were not happy. All my life, I tried to find out how do people become happy? What is this? It's what I'm saying is not, you can have as much money as you like, but if you're not happy, it's not very fulfilling. But I'm not saying that you've got to starve or not have any money. You can do whatever you like. But I am trying to teach people to be happy no matter what. In grief, loss, death, everyone goes through that and it affects them. But there are reasons for this, and there's ways you can change that. And that's what I've written about in the book. Also, how you make money. But
okay, so let's kind of come back. So, Derek, one of the things that you said about the Book of Life is, first and foremost, you're talking about a wealth of topics. You're talking about money, marriage, loss, so many different topics, right?
Yeah.
And number two, you also give exercises that will help transform your life in that area.
Yeah, and the exercises you only have to do one, possibly two, and see the change that happens in your life. When you do that, you'll read this book again. But if you don't do the exercises, if you treat it like a novel, it won't work, I don't think.
Well, you know, Derek, that brings us to that quote, right? The quote where people would always say knowledge is power. It's really the applied knowledge is power, because again, if they read the book but they don't do anything, it doesn't help.
Right.
So, Derek, let's talk about some of the let's get into some of the topics, because like I remember you talk about marriage in there. You and I have had the conversation that a lot of times when people get married, it's for a whole bunch of other reasons other than love.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to say this, but most people don't understand what love is. Love. First, you have to learn to love yourself. If you can't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. Then you must learn to treat others as you would like them to treat you. That's the beginning of love. But how are you able to love yourself? Most people can't. You've got to realize, like for Christians, the Bible states we're born in God's image. But God isn't a person. God is spirit. So then, who are we? Mm-hmm. This is my hand. This is my cheek. This is my nose. This is my body. But who am I? Who am the person that's saying this is my? Who's the person behind that? It's spirit. Mm-hmm. You have to realize that you're divine. You're part of the image of God. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about life. I can prove that. That's what I've done with my life. And people who I've talked to or I've explained and they understand, if God created the universe, you can create little things too. Like health, wealth, anything. You just got to do it with love. You know, first of all, you have to love yourself to know you're part of this. You're part of God. I've done it. I've come from absolutely nothing, and anyone can do it, really. You just got to understand what's in this book, and you've got to really read it. And it's very short. It's only 180 pages.
Yes, yes. So Derek, when you decided that being an engineer was a no for you, that was loving yourself.
Yeah.
Because you were choosing what was going to be better for you, and like that internal knowledge, that internal feeling. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? Like when you're getting those internal nudges to do something that could have been out of the norm, right? Something like that one. You might want to talk. You don't have to go back to that if you don't want to. You can even give another example if you want. But those internal nudges where you got to choose yourself first.
You've got to love yourself. But that's the thing, how do you love yourself? At that time, I didn't know how to love myself. I just did one thing, and I did it subconsciously, whatever. I said, whatever I do, because I was so poor. I said, what happened was I was playing, I went to Italy with a band called Wee Willie Harris, a comedian, and I was there for a year. And in between that, my mother died. And so they called me back to England, and it was too late to go to the funeral. I just saw her in the morgue. And my family got together with a big table, and they said, you can't continue to do this. You was trained to be an engineer. You can't do this. By the time you're 30, this will all be gone. You'll starve to death. And I thought, why? If I starve to death, that's fine. I'll at least have 30 years of good times. I wanted to do. So I said, I'm always going to have enough. This was my thing. I had to combat them saying that I'm going to die. I said, I'll always have enough. I may not have much, but I'll always have enough. And for years, I've always had enough. And I got more and more, but I always had enough. And it's just something that you say to yourself. But what I want you to see is that it's true. Whatever you believe, whatever you say, I'm going to do this. If you do it with enough conviction, you will do it. Don't be afraid. And that's what happened to me. And I didn't know this was happening. I just said, I'm always going to, they said, you're going to die. And I thought, no, I'm going to always have enough. That's all that happens. But I said it with conviction, and I believed it. And years and years ago, I don't know, when Buddha was alive, he had this thing, whatever you believe is true for you. What the hell does that mean? It means that whatever I believe is true for me, and whatever you believe is true for you, even if it's something totally different. How can that be? The only way it can be is if you're creating it. That's what we do, but we don't realize it. Whether we realize it or not, we're creating our life. And usually we're creating it in a way that it's subconscious, let's say. But
so hold on, because you just said a really, really big concept. It's simple, but it's a big concept, right? You said something, you believed it, and you were saying it with conviction, and it was true.
Yeah.
There are so many people in the world right now that are talking about law of attraction, right? Like there's spiritual coaches, there's all of these things that are out there that are talking about this very thing, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way.
And I think you just gave the secret behind the secret, right? You remember the movie, right? The secret behind the secret is you didn't say it and speak it, and
I knew it.
Continued with the worry that what they were putting in you, that I'm really going to die, but I'm going to think positively. You didn't think it, you owned it.
Yeah. whatever you believe, if you really believe it 100%, at that moment, it's true.
It's true.
I mean, you can't say, I'm a millionaire. You're not. So how can you believe it? But you can believe something like, I'm always going to have enough. And it will happen. If you believe it, that's the whole thing. Because you're creating it. You could say, I'm so poor. How am I going to pay my next bill? Well, I don't know how you're going to pay your next bill because that's your thought. Instead, if you say, I'm poor, but I'm going to pay my next bill, you'll pay it. I don't know how it works, but it works.
Yes. Okay.
You're divine. That's the thing. Look, look. When you buy an iPhone,
mm-hmm.
do you get instructions? No, you have to download it.
Mm-hmm.
You download it, you read it. Hopefully, you'll learn how to use it. If you don't read it, you'll just mess around. That's what we're doing with life, messing around. I have the instructions for life. It's called the Book of Life. Read it, because it's taken me my whole lifetime to get to this part, and I want to give it back. All parts of life, there's change, beliefs, let's see, thoughts, communication, children, the quality of life, the creative process, awareness, value. I can't think of all these chapters. Well, medicine and healing, loss, ability to function. There's so many chapters. You have to have them all to create, because you have to know what's download. This is just a download of what's it called? It's instructions for life.
Mm-hmm.
And once you know it, your life will change. That's why I've got to do a few exercises to make you, because some of these chapters are a little bit strange. All you have to do is do the exercise and say, oh, it works. That's it. If you don't do the exercises, you say, oh, what a lot of bloat, it doesn't work. When it does work.
Because it seems simple.
Yeah, it is simple. These self-help books are so complicated, so large. If you know something, you know it, and it's simple. If you don't know it, you could talk about it all day, and you'll never get to the root of it. That's what I've done in this book. It's taken me my whole life to get to there.
Right. So I think, Derek, the biggest thing of what is that it isn't just self-help books have typically been complicated, that for some reason, when it's too simple, we don't think it works.
That's why I've got the exercises.
Okay. Okay.
Do it and it will work.
Do it and it will work.
It will work. And it works. If you, like, for instance, you can meditate, or you don't have to meditate. But if you get yourself into a position and you say, within yourself or out loud, it doesn't really matter. If you give a little prayer, saying, look, I believe that there is a divine presence somewhere. Who knows where it is? But I need to know that it exists. So I would like you to give me a sign today and every other day that you're listening to me. I guarantee you'll get the sign. Maybe it'll be nothing, you know. Maybe you won't be walking along and a book will fall on your head or whatever. I mean, it'll be little teeny things, because you're not asking for anything. You're just asking for a sign. Mm-hmm. When you see that happen to you, and you can do that every day, so I want another sign, I want another sign. And when you see that happening, you realize that you are divine, you are part of the force, I call it the life force. And it will agree with you, it will show you. I don't even know what it is, but it works.
Okay, so let's make this a little simpler. So what you're saying is that there is something
Mhm.
right? How many Christian religions how many
Oh
versions?
yeah, I've got a book about this. 3,000 Christian religions.
There's 3,000 Christian religions. So we are taking religion completely out. We're not choosing, a religion in what he's talking about. But what you're saying is that there's something, and if you ask the right questions, it will give you the right answers.
If you ask it to do something, it will show you that it exists.
If you ask it to do something, it will show you that it exists.
That's it. If you say, show me a sign that you're listening to me, or show me a sign that you exist, it will show you a sign. And if you do that, if you do it one day, maybe you won't get it the next day. But if you do it a couple of days, 2-3 days, you'll start getting the sign every day. And everyone...
Because it's like anything else, you got to work the muscle.
Yes.
So that you can hear and see and all of that, correct?
Yes, because this life force is all around, it's everywhere, it's everything, it's in you, it's within you, it's around you, it's around everything. You're not special, you're just part of God. That's special enough, isn't it?
Well, that's everybody. Both,
Everyone.
Everybody has this ability. Okay, yeah. So listening has to be a big deal then.
Listen, I did this some years ago with Elizabeth, my wife. We made some prayer up. It was a very specific prayer, and you have to say something. I want something pleasant, because God knows what you're going to have if you don't get something pleasant. You have to tell the divine being, whatever, that you want to, because I don't think it understands. I mean, if it would understand what's going on here, it would change everything, but it doesn't, because we have free will. Mm-hmm. And so you say, I need something to show that you exist, pleasant. We did this for 6 months. Every day we got the weirdest things happened. I mean, once we were living in a house, and opposite there was another house. We had a garden in between. And I got pictures of this, so I can prove it. All of a sudden, I looked out the window, there's 6 vultures on the house opposite, and they're big birds. So I said, I'm going to go and get a picture of this. I had no idea. I didn't think this was a surprise or anything. I just saw 6 vultures. So I got my camera. I found it. It took me probably 20 minutes. It was still there. Mm-hmm. So I picked up my camera. I took a picture. And as I took a picture, those vultures all opened their wings and went like this. Is that a surprise? Sometimes there were little surprises, but which maybe you don't notice too much. Like there was this weird thing, an insect, but it was about big as this, that landed down here, and it was all going like this, and we ran and said, that must be a surprise.
It's pretty funny, because you just made me remember something. I was in California, I was in San Diego, I was doing a conference, I don't even remember what kind of conference it was, but I was staying in a hotel where it was like a Spanish influence, designed in a Spanish way. And so outside of my room was a little table with a water fountain. And I happened to be away at this conference the day of my mother's birthday. My mother has passed away. Mm-hmm. So I'm at this conference on my mother's birthday. And so I'm outside in the morning, because I'm on California time then, mm-hmm. but I'm normally on East Coast time. So you can believe I was waking up at like 3 o'clock in the morning over there. Mm-hmm. And so I let the sun come up. I go and sit outside, and I'm kind of journaling, and I'm just really thinking about my mom. I'm kind of honoring her because it's her birthday. And this hummingbird comes down and almost sits on my nose, literally like right here in front of me, and just hovers there. And I was like, this can't be real, right? And so then it flies away. And then I started laughing. And then I actually started crying. And the person that I was who was in the room with me, she comes out and she says, "What is going on?" And I'm like explaining it to her, and I didn't think she believed me, right? So it came back and it did it again so she could see it. That's pretty funny because you're right. That reminds me of that very example. The hummingbird. See, we don't know how that message is going to show, right? We don't know how. And it was a hummingbird for me that day.
I give it yesterday. Now, we're not asking for any surprises anymore. I just believe who I am. And if you believe who you are, which is part of God, your life will change just in that way. But this computer, no, it was my other computer. I wanted to get three different things coming in as emails, and I wanted to be separate, and I couldn't do it. So we got a geek store down the road, so I went there, and there was this, it was a Mac, and there was a girl who's Mac certified. She's looking at it, she said, I don't know how to do that. This guy walks in, and he says, "Can I help you?" to the girl, because she's fiddling with my computer. It's a geek store. She said, "Yeah, I can't do this." He went, blah, blah, blah. There it is.
It just, again, you don't know how
it came from. And I said, "Who is he?" She said, "Oh, he's the boyfriend of someone who works here. He's a real estate agent."
So Derek, answer me this, because you've achieved a lot, right? You've achieved a lot in your lifetime. And could it be because we are so goal-oriented and we got to have it all figured out and all, that we're missing some of the very joys of life then?
I mean, you can ask for something and you'll get something different, but it will be better for you. You know, it's like, what do I want? I want to be a millionaire. Well, it may not happen, but you'll get something that will be just as good for you, and you won't starve, definitely. I mean, if you have $1 million in the bank, it's in the bank. It's not yours, it's someone else's until you spend it. When you spend money, then you have the money. Think of it this way. Let's see. All right. There's an au pair. You know what an au pair is? From France. She comes to America and she's supposed to look after the children of a rich family. So she's poor and they're rich. But she lives in the same house. She eats the same food. The people who are working, they're working as well, and she's working. You could say, well, yeah, but maybe when she's finished that, she's going to go home to her little house with her parents in France. What happens if she meets someone there?
Well, isn't that because you're going too far down the line? Like, you're not allowing the gifts to be present.
You're not realizing what you have.
Right now, right.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, because when you think big, you become big. When you think small, you become small. You don't have to do big things. You just have to think that way. Hold your head up and say, I'm better than this.
I love this, Derek, because and I've told you before that I coach women so that they can grow their businesses and use automation and things like that. And so one of the things when I'm doing retreats is I tell them, because most of them are coming to talk about money, right? And so I tell them about the time when I was given a $50,000 check the very first time. Now, it's funny, Derek, because sometimes when it happens again, we don't seem to cherish it as much as we did when it happened the first time, right?
Yes.
So the first time I still get very animated and I'm really excited when I talk about it. But I tell people that anytime I want more money in my life, I just go back to that moment.
That's the feeling.
It's the feeling. And I've even recorded that moment and I've given it to my clients so that if they've never experienced a $50,000 check all at one time with their name on it, that they can live this experience through me. So I say, hey, close your eyes. And I'm not giving them a meditation. I'm just describing this feeling and everything that happened in as many words to bring in all of the senses as possible.
And they have to realize they're just as good as you. They're the same. That you're not special. I'm not special.
Right.
Think in a different way. I downloaded whatever it is to get me through this life. I've had losses. I've gone from right down there to down to the bottom again. But I've said, fine, I can't lose. There's something that you can say to yourself.
So I love that you brought that up. The ebbs and flows and the ups and downs and all of that.
75 years. It's a long time to live.
So when you've done the down, right?
Yeah.
Were there times that you were going, oh, you know what? I've started thinking, I wasn't thinking that there's always enough. I started getting way too concentrated in, oh, I got to have this and I got to have that.
That's right.
You feel that's what happened?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you can't think all the time. But the thing is, I mean, I met my wife, we went to England and we made a lot of money. We came back and because people said that the deregulation of electricity is going to start now and you can make a lot of money out of that. So we did, and we lost all the money we made in England. And you know what? It didn't make any difference because we had our car. We got into our car, we left the house, which we didn't have anymore. And we said, we're on an adventure. And you know what? Within a month, we were back on. Well, I mean, we didn't have lots of money, but we were earning money, and it just builds up.
Yeah,
that's how it is. It's your inner feeling, and believe me, if you understand that you're part of God,
yes,
whatever that God is, the religious, it doesn't matter. You can be a Christian, you can be a Buddhist. I don't care what you are.
Yeah. Know
that it's a personal thing. God is personal to you because you're part of that. In the Christian Bible, I said, it says it right in it. But people used to think, or people still think, that God is sitting on a throne up in heaven. How can that be? That's like before we knew that the world was round. It was straight, it was square, and he was up there. There's no up, there's no down. The world is round. Right.
So the knowledge has progressed. So, okay, so before we go there, because I think that's a big topic, I think your point really kind of proved both ends of the scale. And there's things that we can go to it. So if we think about lottery winners, if we go to one end of the scale, most lottery winners are back to this, even if they've won millions, within like 2 to 5 years, they are back to the same situation that they were in before they won the money.
That's right.
A high percentage of them, correct?
Yes.
Now let's think about the flip side. There's also, there's studies that say that if you have ever attained a millionaire status, that even if you lose it, you can get back there very quickly. And it all is because of what feeling you allow to prevail and be dominant in your life.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and you know, people just haven't got the connection. Everyone's got this connection, but you don't think you have.
And so we think it's a lot more random than it really is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's everyone, but if you think, oh, I'm never going to make it, I'm always going to be poor, you will. I mean, God is not creating it, you're creating it.
Yeah.
You're creating that scenario.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about that because I love how I love what you just said. about we thought the world was flat. We know it's round. You know, is it that we are trying to hold on? Because I like using the word traditions, because I think traditions do us a disservice. That's just my own personal opinion. Now, could it be that we're again, like you said, we're holding on to someone else's version so tight that we're not allowing ourselves to really experience what God, universe, source, whatever your version is, how it really looks like?
Yeah. You know, I believe something's happening today in the world to push us out. That's another reason why I wrote this book. I wrote this book years ago, but I edited it to do it properly. I never thought it was the time, but the world is changing. Nothing stays the same. Most people don't like the change. It destabilizes them. We can't make it vaporize away. We can't make it vanish. Life now consists of changes. If we go back just 100 years, things didn't change. Then we had the Industrial Revolution. Started making things like Ford and whatever, and things started changing. I don't know how many years, maybe, I think from 1860 to 1925, something like that. The whole of knowledge since the beginning of time doubled. That's incredible in 30 years. Then 25 years later, all that knowledge doubled. That's 4 times what we knew. And every time it's been doubling and doubling, faster and faster. I just read a few days ago, I think it was from last year, that knowledge is doubling every 13 months. I mean, you can see it with the computers, you can see it with everything. It's destabilizing us. It's starting to make us think, what the hell's going on? I've got to deal with this. You know, there is so much opportunity in change. People don't want the change. They say, I want it to stay the same. Well, good. You want it to stay the same. It's going to change. Wake up. Start changing yourself. Become a person that's going to be successful.
Yeah.
We all have that ability.
Wow, Derek, like right here and right now in the United States, we're going through a massive change. We've just changed presidents, and regardless of what side of the fence someone is on, it really, you know, you just used the words wake up. I feel that people are awake now.
Good.
Yes, I'm not sure that if Hillary would have won, that this country would be as awake as it is now. Because again, no matter what side of the fence there's bigger discussions that are happening now. And I mean, like, your book to me is so timely with that, with everything else that's going on in the world, with the way that race and religion and all of those things are like at the forefront. And here we are, here's a Black girl talking to you, right? And you're talking about coming from World War II, and we are talking about commonalities and how connection to our source, our God, our whatever, life force, whatever the language you want to use, but we're talking about the commonality of that. And we're not, you know, we're technically different.
Yeah. I really believe that something's happening, and whether it's the combined force of people wanting change or whatever. I mean, I didn't agree with whatever is happening in the political asylum, because that's what it is. But at least there's some people saying, what's going on? Am I going to lose this? No, you're not going to lose anything if you don't believe you're going to. You create your world. No one else does. Look, if someone comes up to you and
so
says,
that's a big statement. You know, there, because I think you got it, right? And so I just know that you can give this audience, I know the book definitely is going to help them, number one, but I think you have something that's really going to help. Saying that, there are so many quotes out in the world right now, right? Like, what you think of grows, what you concentrate on grows, what you think you are, you will become. We can go back to the beginning of time, right? We could begin quoting Henry David Thoreau. We can quote Rumi. We can quote so many people who got it.
mm-hmm.
Let's make it practical for them today.
That's right. That's what this book is. It gives you that's what self-help book, they say, think and grow rich. Oh, what about life?
Mm-hmm.
What's important? How do you do that? This book has got so many stuff. Say someone comes up to you and says, you're an idiot. And you say, oh, I don't like that. That person didn't do it to you. You did it to yourself.
Because you took it on.
Yes. That's how life works. So if you take on, my life sucks, you don't need anyone to tell you that. It does. You change your mind. It doesn't. I show you how to change your mind.
Yeah, I like that. So Derek, I want to make you laugh. Have you ever heard one of those little nursery rhymes or those little sayings you tell your kids? I tell my clients this now. Like where the saying, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. It was something you learned as a kid, right? But that's the truth. That's what you just said. If somebody calls me an idiot, that is none of my business unless I decide to take it on.
Right. And it's the same with, for instance, people don't like Trump. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But Trump is not going to come into your house and kidnap your kids. Trump is Trump. He's here. You are your own divine self. So if you say, oh, Trump's the world's going to be terrible. It's going to be worse and worse. Well, then it will be because you're creating it with your thoughts.
How do you have balance? I think is the biggest discussion that I have right now with anyone when it comes down to the political climate in the United States. How do you have balance? How do you understand, like I do, that whatever I focus on grows? How do you be involved, but at the same time understand I want no part of that mess?
Well, I've got a chapter in the book, and it says, if you want to change, don't watch the news for a little while.
Yeah.
When you start watching it in a couple of months' time, you'll see that nothing has actually changed.
Mm-hmm.
But you will have changed, and then maybe you won't watch it as much.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole chapter on how to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to shut out. If you're going to change, you can't tell someone, I'm going to change, I'm going to get better. You keep it yourself. When people see you change, they'll say, oh, I didn't think he used to be like that. He must have been, because that's who he is. They won't even know. And you will become happier. Whatever causes you to be happy, that will be if the money that you need because you're poor is you need, you'll have it. If you're rich, I'm not saying you're going to lose your money, you'll just be happy. Whatever you have, if you've got a horrible boss and he's picking on you all the time, he'll disappear. He'll get fired or he'll stop picking on you. That's how life is when you understand the instructions of life. Yeah. And you can't do it in one like one book that says, this is how you make money. This is how you... No, it doesn't work like that. You've got to understand the whole process of how life actually works.
Because, okay, so Derek, because I think we'll be here all night. You know that, right? I love talking to you. But, okay, so you really just said something that I believe in my heart, that you do more working when you want to attract more money in your life. It's what you're doing when you're not thinking about the money, because it's in the little things. It's in how you treat the person that answered the phone. It's in how you act when you're driving and someone cuts you off on the highway. I think that if you can learn how to be happy in those moments and how to not let those things kind of drive you crazy, that I think your brain is more tuned to the opportunities when they present themselves.
Yeah, you can always look at things as a glass half full or half empty. Most people look at the glass as half empty. If you just change that, your glass will become half full, and it will go on from there. I guarantee that for anyone. You've just got to change.
Wow. I think that is so good. So Derek, tell me what didn't we talk about? like what didn't I ask you that you think someone should know? First and foremost, everyone go get the Book of Life.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to say is that I'm going to have a blog. And if you don't understand something that you read, write to me and I'll answer you.
Yes, and so
I'm only one person. If I could help one person at a time, I'm only one person. I'm not more important than anyone else. I just know a few answers. So if someone writes to me, I'll write back. I'll try to help you.
Awesome. And so I'm going to make sure I give the URL, the website for that in a second, because I made sure I wrote that down to say it. So first and foremost, Derek Berman's book is The Book of Life. He's talking about a whole lot of different things, money, relationships, communications, loss, there's a wealth of chapters. And as he's saying, that when you go and you get a self-help book, if you want to attract more money, or you go to that one thing and you're concentrating on that, and then you don't really find any results, and it is because you have to treat your whole life.
Yeah,
I think that is the beauty of what he's bringing in this book. So go and definitely get this book, because he's really talking. Again, it's just a story after my own heart. We could do this forever. I could keep asking him questions, and we've already been over an hour. So his website is derekberman.com. And so that's DEREK, B as in boy, ER, M as in Mary, AN as in Nancy.com.
Yeah.
Derek, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Oh, thank you. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I know you're doing well. I don't have to help you. I have to help. I know you're happy. I'm certainly happy. And that's the main thing in life, is to be happy no matter what. And when it's no matter what, it's pretty good because you have stuff.
Yeah, I'm the happiest person I know.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So we will, I just want to help other people get happy.
That's right.
Right?
That's what I want.
Yeah.
One at a time. I don't care.
One at a time.
Yeah.
So, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Wow. That
Bye.
was this episode of Sitting at the Feet of Giants. If you like this show and you want us to continue to talk to, travel to different giants and bring the real story. Not just all of the hype, but the real story of what it took to reach those different levels of success. Please go to iTunes and subscribe to this show. Also, make sure that you leave a review. The show can be seen not just on iTunes, it can be seen on Stitcher and every live streaming device. You help further this message, this truth, when you go and you subscribe on those platforms. So, if you have any type of artificial intelligent device like an Alexa or a Apple TV, turn on your voice activation and ask for Sitting at the Feet of Giants. By subscribing, you will help us bring this show to all around the world and help people really know the truth behind the success. I hope you've enjoyed this show. If you have any show topics or people that you want us to get in front of and interview, please send us that request, questions, or again, show topics to topics@TinaBrinkleyPotts.com. Again, that's topics@TinaBrinkleyPotts.com. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.